Waymo, it's reported, is raising $15 billion at a $100 billion valuation. Um, what are your thoughts on this? I think Uber's market cap is like 165 billion, so it's over half the valuation of Uber. But
Is it?
I think
Let's actually look at Uber real quick. Yeah, 165. Yeah, that's it's 164, but that's perfect. Yeah, so I'm actually a couple of things. One is I was surprised that it's only at $100 billion valuation, considering uh, people are attributing as much as half of Tesla's value to its robotaxi ambitions, and that would mean roughly Tesla's robotaxi division might be worth as much as $800 billion. So Waymo raising at a $100 billion valuation doesn't seem really high to me. The fact that they are raising 15 billion, that amount actually seems like they're getting very serious about it. With $15 billion, let's say with $10 billion, if each vehicle cost $100,000, and they're rumored to cost more than that, but obviously they can get their costs down quite a bit, and they can probably get it down significantly below 100,000 if they really optimized for it. But let's say in the worst case scenario, because they want an accelerated timeline, they're willing to pay premiums on everything, and they spent $100,000 per vehicle. They could put 100,000 vehicles out there in the next year, and use the other 5 billion for operations and additional staffing and all of that stuff that's necessary to deploy 100,000 vehicles. With less than 3,000 vehicles, their revenue run rate is approximately 350 million. So if they could 30x that over the course of the next year, so a year from now, under 2 years from now, if it takes them a little bit longer, they could actually be on a $10 billion revenue run rate. This could be an extremely fast revenue acceleration plan that would make the company worth significantly more and a major player, and it would make it much harder for Tesla to compete. Now, Tesla, of course, has this huge advantage of being able to make the cars at a lot lower cost, and any car that they don't sell, they could still make and put it into their robotaxi division. So Tesla has the ability to scale much faster, assuming there's no roadblocks from regulators and other factors, and they could come in at a fraction of the price that Waymo charges in order to compete. So long term, Tesla still has an advantage, but short term, Waymo could make it much tougher for anybody else to come in by capturing as much of the market as they can. Now, one of the things to remember is that a single Waymo vehicle, I think I remember Dara, Uber CEO, saying something like this on one of their earnings call. A single Waymo vehicle in Austin, he was saying, is roughly 5 times more utilized than the typical Uber vehicle is.
mm,
So if that's the case, that's the equivalent of having if they put 100,000 Waymos on the road, that's the equivalent of having 500,000 uh, Uber drivers on the road. So the utilization of those vehicles could actually make a pretty major dent into even Uber's revenues if they did it on their own. And of course, if they partnered with Uber, Uber still sort of maintains that revenue. I think it's a mistake to partner with them, though. But
I think that's temporary anyway. I don't see them sticking with Uber long term.
yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that they did at all, because it just seems like Uber is inviting the Trojan horse into their into their environment. But you never know how those agreements are written, meaning like it's possible that Google or Waymo might not be able to launch their own thing in new markets without going through Uber. Who knows? If I was Uber, I would want some kind of protection that they're not going to do that in any kind of partnership.
Do you think Tesla has an advantage here because part of their robotaxi business, at least is what they're saying, is they're going to have their customers buy the vehicle, so they're making a profit on the vehicle, and then their customers can choose if they want their car to be a robo-taxi during certain times of the day. And then it's also the customer's responsibility to maintain the car. So there's a lot less costs potentially on Tesla's end
Yeah.
compared to Waymo's end.
This is a fascinating thing because Elon has been saying for a long time that Tesla owners will be able to make money with their vehicles by just choosing to enter it into the network and taking it out of the network whenever they want. Well, the reality is that uh, I I think that would introduce a lot of complexities that Tesla will probably choose to do away with and just use their own vehicles because they're going to have excess inventory, and it makes sense to just sell the excess inventory to your own robotaxi division and put those vehicles into work because you're likely not going to be able to deploy more cars than your excess inventory anyway, as you're trying to figure out scaling issues and um, figuring out how to get the safety driver out. Which, by the way, they were spotted not having some safety drivers in Austin, but currently they don't have the best accident track record. They've already had 8 accidents, none with major injuries, as far as I know, but their rate of accident is roughly 2 times the rate of accident of Waymo's, and they have had safety drivers in them. So, if, for example, they get this reputation that they have uh, a lower safety record than Waymo, then all of a sudden this market could be lost. So they have to scale it in such a way that is both safe and makes sense. And bringing in other people's vehicles where you don't know what the condition of those vehicles are, you're going to have to trust the owners. It just adds a layer of complexity, which they probably are going to want to do without initially. And then as they make more cars and as they introduce their two-person vehicle, which is just designed to be a robotaxi, the question is how much demand is there going to be for robotaxis for them to use, the million plus pe- people's cars that might opt into such a network. So I don't think that in particular, their customers opting their cars into the network is going to be a significant advantage the way it appears to be playing out because you kind of have to take things relatively slow. Um, but their major advantage is that they can they can just make so many of the vehicles. They're producing their production capacity is roughly 2 million vehicles a year, and this new robotaxi two-person vehicle that they're making is going to add to that. It's going to be additive, so it's going to be another 500,000 in a year on top of the 2 million. So
'Cause that
you
was gonna
know
be my next question. Because my concern, if Tesla is strictly going to run their robotaxi division and they're not going to have consumers provide their own cars, is that going to hurt all of these wait lists that you currently have to be on to buy a Tesla? Where, like, they just can't meet
there,
the demand of, or are there
there's
no
no
wait
more
lists anymore?
there's no more wait list. Yeah, there hasn't been a wait list for over a year for Tesla
Really? So
vehicles.
if I wanted to buy, I don't know, Model Y, I could just go in and purchase one?
You could probably have one within 3 days.
Oh, okay. That I didn't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. When they first introduced the new Model Y, there may have been a short wait list for it, but no, they're making them faster than they can sell them right now.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's not a concern.
Yeah. So there's no more wait list. You can get any of their vehicles basically now on demand almost, and I think they have inventory that you can even choose from. Um, but yeah, so the whole robotaxi using people's vehicles, I think is I'm gonna guess it's a pipe dream. It's never gonna happen. That would be my guess. If it happens, I'll be very, very surprised. Meaning if any, maybe they'll do an experiment to see whether or not they're going to actually scale it. But I just don't see, a million different individuals owning their vehicles being able to opt in and opt out of the Tesla network and each getting a separate check. And you got to do the payment systems and, you got to figure out how to like dude,
I
a million people's 1099s, for example, the accounting becomes way more complex. I mean, it's just, it's just adding complexity when none is needed because they have so much excess capacity of creating these vehicles.
I'll take the other side of it. I think they will do it. I don't know what the distribution will be in regards to Tesla owned vehicles and customer owned vehicles. And I think they'll do it because one, that's already been the pitch. And I think if it makes sense or if it doesn't make sense, they're going to do it because they said it. And two, a lot of this has already been solved with Uber and Lyft, how they run their businesses. So it's not like they're necessarily reinventing the wheel too much. Also, pun intended there.
Yeah.
Um, but
Well,
like
every company still has to do the work. They can't skip the work just because Uber has figured out how to pay a million people in 50 different states and hundreds of countries, right? But not hundreds, more than whatever 100 countries that they're operating in. That lift is extremely, extremely difficult and has to be done by every company that wants to do it. Uber has already done it, but Tesla hasn't, and it has a choice.
right.
Does it want to take that lift or not? And it would make sense for them to do that lift if they had to, because it's not an impossible lift.
Yeah, and they have
Self-driving
the
is
engineering capacity to do it. Right. Like they
right.
have it's not like it's Ford trying to build this out.
That's right. That's right. They
Um,
100% do, but they also have the vehicles to just not use other people's vehicles, and then they don't also need to give them any margin. They have a higher margin on them, and
well, that's another question of which is a more profitable model. Is it for them to own the vehicles and manage the vehicles themselves, or is it more profitable to uh, for the consumer to own and manage the vehicles? But also, if they did roll this out, they don't have to roll it out for the entire world out all at once. It could be like state by state,
one
like what they're
city.
doing now, or it could be by country or
That's right.
whatever. So I
I
think at a
suspect that,
minimum they'll test it.
yeah, I suspect that they will test it. I think you're right in that they will probably test it. And my guess is that the experience of the end user will be sporadic enough to where they'll be like in this city where we don't have any, or in all of our whatever, even in the same city where they have Tesla run vehicles and then customer run vehicles, the experience and ratings and everything of Tesla run vehicles is going to be higher than customer run vehicles. And I think as a result of that, they're going to have to preserve the experience over the potential cost savings of customer run vehicles. And that's
Well,
where I think that long term it's going to be um, yeah. What were you going to say?
I agree with you, but don't underestimate the customer run vehicles. They're going to have a little sanitizer. They're going to have a little chocolate that you can have, right? Like there's
This is
going to be some
true.
nice touches,
This is true. That is, as some Uber drivers have done, right? Like
right?
you can
Some
get into some
USB
Uber.
ports to charge.
Yeah, that's true.
Tesla's not providing that. I'm
Yeah.
sure they'll provide some of that. Um, was there anything else you wanted to hit on in regards to the accident reports?
So Waymo has been, operating obviously without drivers, safety backup drivers for a couple of years now, and they have a lot more miles, and their numbers are significantly better than the current number of miles and accidents reported by Tesla Robotaxi, on the order of roughly 2 times better. So all this community of people who think that LiDAR makes things less safe, you might want to take that into consideration that the, that the currently safer Robotaxi is the one with LiDAR. Um, that doesn't mean you can't do it with cameras. It might mean that lidars might make it more safe. So, the jury is currently on the side of lidar and Waymo as opposed to Tesla Robotaxi. I'm in the camp that Tesla has the long-term advantage, but you got to be realistic about safety records and things of that nature as well.
And do you know how the Tesla self-driving compares to humans in regards to accident rate?
Okay, so the numbers that are being reported is based on accident rates alone. Both Tesla robotaxis and Waymos are less or are having more frequent accidents than humans. But it could be just because it's the number of incidents, and human ones, not as many might be reported. If you do a fender bender, it might not be reported in a parking lot or whatever. The other thing is that I believe Waymo death rate in accidents has been zero. That's Waymo's fault, and one that was another driver that hit a Waymo at more than 90 miles per hour, and there was a death involved there. So the number of deaths has been dramatically reduced. I believe Waymo had reported as more than 85% reduction of serious injuries and death. So it should be significantly safer because they're much more careful on in general, but they're making mistakes in low proximity, low speed type of environments, or distance proximity, low speed type of environments.
Right. I don't even know if Waymo is currently operating on highways because whenever I visit Arizona, they always avoid highways. So
Yeah,
that could
I think
also
they
be
just started to,
watching the numbers. Okay.
but a lot of the statistics is probably pre-highway anyway.
Right. My biggest fear when it comes to all this stuff is the public being scared out of self-driving from any accidents, even if it's one accident, right? Like,
Right.
because this will save so many lives once the more cars that drive themselves and the more cars that have all these sensors, regardless if it's cameras or lidar or whatever, it's going to dramatically reduce accidents and the death rate from accidents on cars.